right now. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Progressive Technology Project. This is our Power-based webinar on creating mobile responsive email templates using Mosaico in Power-based. If you could all, just some quick logistics here, if you could all mute your phones. I will also mute as well, but if you could mute your phones, that would be great. Otherwise, I will do it for everybody. I am recording this webinar. And in this first part, what I'm going to do just to really move things along is I'm going to run through just how to create things, how to use Mosaico and explain what it is, and then we'll save the questions for the end, just so we can keep it flowing. And you can also use the chat box if you want to ask any questions, and I will look at the chat box here in, towards the end. So I'm going to start muting folks. I'm going to start muting everybody, and hopefully folks can hear. What I'm going to do, as soon as I mute you, I'm going to ask if people can hear me. If you could just type in the chat box, would be great. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let me do this first. Let me mute everybody. Let me go and share first. Let me just share and make sure I can do this correctly. I want to make sure everybody can see this before I go. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Can everybody see the screen? You should be at a screen called Creating Responsive Emails. Perfect, thank you. And I'm going to check some of the audio stuff. I'm going to just mute everybody right now. And
the conference has been muted.
Great. Can you tell me if you can hear me? If somebody can just say you can hear me. Just chat it in the box. I want to make sure you can still hear me while you're looking at the presentation. Perfect. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Just to get started here, as you probably all heard, yes, there will be a webinar recording at the end, so you will have this. If you notice, what I'm actually looking at is our network.progressivedex.org. It's our Power On network. You all have access to this. And this is one way that we wrote some documentation on how to use Mosaico. And just give a quick thing here, Mosaico is just an extension written by a bunch of developers in the CiviCM community. And it's an extension that helps you build mobile responsive templates, which slightly different than how you're doing it now traditionally with CiviCRM Power-based. You know, there's a template either we've helped you create or you've created, but this helps you build it. So we're going to take a look at it, and then towards the end of the session, we'll go through questions. So again, the documentation is here up on our network site, so feel free to look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and start talking about it. I'm going to just shut this for a second right now, just the chat. I'll come back to it if you can see my screen. So as always, it's in our mailing. If you were interested in Mosaico, we would enable it with you, for you. So just let us know if this is something you want to do after this. Just email support. So in mailings, if you take a look, you have this option to use Mosaico or use the traditional way of the way you've done it before. So that gives you some flexibility, which is sort of nice. But just so you know, there's going to be a little bit of a difference here. With Mosaico, your templates are going to be living in a different directory. So if you notice, there's a Mosaico template area, and then there's a message templates area. The message templates area is where your traditional, your existing, current templates are. Anything you create with Mosaico are going to now be living in a different menu item, or we'll say a different directory. So you need to be sure that you're looking at the correct templates to be able to get to it. The other thing to note here is that if you've been using the traditional CiviCRM email template, which most of you are, you will, your images that you had uploaded for those older or your existing templates or your existing emails that you've sent out are living also in a separate directory. So images that you want to use for Mosaico, you'll most likely have to re-upload those images again to use it in your new templates. Right now, that's the way it's set up, that they've set it up with two separate directories, again, because this is a different feature. It's a new extension, so things were sort of separated out. So just so you know how that's working. All right, so let's just go in. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through just creating an email on the fly, and then I'll show you where the templates live. And again, there's a lot. I have written up some documentation, but sometimes it's not as easy to go through. There's a lot of things you can do. So once you enable Mosaico, you go into new mailing. Again, the traditional mailings. Here, if you want to use the old current CDCRM, otherwise just go to new mailing. Well, let's take a look at what looks different. You can see it sort of simplifies a little bit about your steps. Now there's like 3 steps. The first one is just setting up your mailing. And I'm just going to just set things up really quickly here. Just like your old one, you still have to come up with a name, right? You can add a campaign if you have a campaign. Again, you set up your email, where it's coming from. You make choices on that. Again, you have to set that up ahead of time. And then a group that you're sending to. And I'm just going to pick a group that I created. And now your subject, right? So this is the subject line for your test messages. For your messages that actually folks are going to see. So, and then I'm just going to come up with something. Okay. So again, very simplified here. It just shows you just need to set up, and it tells you almost everything here is required except for the campaign. So then once you set that up, then you can go to continue. It won't let you go to the template itself or the email message unless you go ahead and create that part. So now we're in this design step. And the design step is where you start building your email. Now, obviously, if you have templates, you'll see it here. I created some templates. But we're going to just work on the fly just because creating a template is the same idea. So I'm going to pick this empty template. And you'll see something interesting. I'm going to click select. So it's an empty template. So let me start from scratch. And so now this is what you're going to see. I don't know if some of you have ever used like Canva, it's some of those design tools where you sort of drop and drag like a block that's pre-formatted for you. It's similar to that. And so here, if you take a look, and just to orient you to what we're looking at, on this left-hand side where I'm scrolling, these are the different kinds of email block formations, formatting options that you have. So if I take a look, you notice there's some images, just an image. It could be text with an image. Also, it's just a title, just the content. You can have several images and content. This is basically creating columns. You can just have a button. You can add a line. Again, different image sizes. And then this is the footer, right? And just so you know, you need to have this footer in your email. Again, this gives you your address stuff. And then again, over here, it already sets up the header, a pre-header for you, which is your unsubscribe, right? And or view in your browser, which is for things you need to have. So on this side is the blocks that you want, and you drop and drag things or click and add. On this side, I'm just going to call it the palette, or it's your template. I call it the palette when you're not creating a template. Again, it's more like a design thing. And then on the top, there's these different things you can do with each block. There's some content information, style information. This is the actual image gallery, which we're going to get to. And this is how we actually go and test. So let me start with just building a few things here. And I like to build things from top down. And again, you have the option to rearrange things. So I think what I want here is maybe I want a nice little picture that goes across the top. Maybe I pick this one. So you can either drop and drag. I'm not as adept with my mouse, so I just click. I can just click and add it, right? And so it's going to add it in here. And it's going to be small for now, but I'm just adding it. And I'm going to add the next piece I want. So maybe I want this one. So it's already highlighted, so I know it's going to go below it. I'm going to add this one. This is for fun because it has a button here and has an image on the side. And then I'm just going to go down here and add my footer, right? So there it is. I'm just adding it. Doesn't look like anything yet, but I'm going to go in here and fix a few things. And if you notice, if you want to flip things around, there's these little up and down arrows. You can delete things, right? You can copy the block. But for now, I'm going to start here. Okay, so now I know it looks a little funky, right? I'm going to actually go here, and this first block was the one where I picked up a banner type of block. I find it easier for me if I just click on this and highlight the image I want to add, and then I'm going to go to my image gallery. Now, if you don't have anything in your image gallery, you can just click here, right? Click or drag file. If I click here, I can just go and drop and drag. It'll upload the file. But for quickness, I have some things here. I'm going to grab this, and it's easy. You can do a drop and drag, but since I highlighted this drop an image here area, I'm going to just click on this, and it's going to pop it in. So one thing about images, as with the old email or the existing, the traditional email, is that be mindful about your images. You need to make sure that the images that you're uploading are already small, right? In other words, small size, file size. So you don't want to be uploading a 1 megabyte, image. Otherwise, think about how big those emails are going to be. So just make sure you're resizing it on your local computer before you upload it. All right. And that goes with regular email. So there's that one. That's this the banner one, and I'm going to go into this one, and then I'll talk about formatting things. Let me just add another picture here. I'm going to highlight this and go back to my image gallery. I'm going to pick this lovely picture from Pennsylvania Immigration Coalition. Pick it here in Pennsylvania. I just love this picture, so I'm going to use that. All right. So I started adding my pictures. And then I'm just, like, when you're done with your pictures, just close this X box, this X here, and you can get back to your blocks. Let's talk about these blocks. You can start just typing your text, right? If I just go in here, I can just start typing. I can just, whatever I want, right? Whatever it is. And then you can see there's some ways of bolding. You can add your italics. And again, here too, you can just start typing. Again, you can copy from someplace else. And be mindful about copying your text. Obviously, if you're creating your text or your content in Word, again, copy and paste can be problematic because Word attaches formatting. So usually you want to paste it as text, or you want to you want to just copy it, put it in a text document would be the best, and copy that straight into here. All right. But if you notice, what I can do now is I can do more things inside this bucket. I can fix this button, right? We're gonna do stuff with the button here too. Let me go here. I'm just gonna say join. It could be whatever you want, right? So I'm just playing with text. Not really doing anything here, but if you notice, if I'm clicking in this content area, and we'll talk about the content area. In this content area, it's, you can give a link to the button here. So maybe this is where you're, where is this going? What page is it going to? Maybe it's another Power-based page. It's your registration page. The other thing to look at here is here's your formatting. When I'm inside here, typical formatting. I'm going to show you some of the formatting that's here. There's headings, right? So depending on size of headings, you just want to play with it. You can see there's more bold. You can add some blocks or some alignment. Other things, if you want to add things so here's the thing. Here's the kicker. If you wanted to add bullets, right? Because right now there's nothing in the formatting that lets you create bullets, right? If you notice that. So here, and again, we can help you with this, but if you know a little bit of source code, you can get right into the HTML here, right? Then you could just use your HTML code. And I'm just going to do a really simple one, sorry. My typing, really simple. I'm just going to add some bullets really quickly here. Item 1, I'm not going to sit here and try to decide. I'll just come up with this, you know, so you just sort of keep creating your bullets. Just going to do a quick one here. And then you want to, these are the, I sort of did that tag wrong. Let me just fix that. There you go. And then you close out your bullet, you close out your item, you close out your bullet. And again, we can help you with this stuff, or you could Google that, right? Google your HTML and how to even create order lists, right? And then if I close it, there's your bullets, right? And then I'd have to fix a few things here on the, you know, probably on spacing. But again, it's going to use, you can go in and go into the source, again, to do that. The other thing to think about, so the other thing you want to think about formatting is there's this thing called styles, right? And in style, you know, because there's these, you can change background colors. This is the background color, the white. The external background, if you notice, it puts like this another background on the back side of it, so it's this gray area. You can change these colors. Same thing with fonts. You can change the font size, the colors. You can, same thing with the paragraphs. Again, the button. You could do more with the button color. You could change all this on the style. One thing, though, to think about the style is that you have to decide if you want to make that change globally. That globally means in all of the blocks, right, in each of the blocks, or you can just customize a single block. If I'm highlighted here, I could just customize only this current block, right, and not mess with this block or that block, right? So maybe I just want this block to be fixed. Maybe I want this to be white in the background. Maybe I also want this to be white. And just notice using this hex color kind of formatting, either one, you could just sort of click in here and just look for it. But if you want a special color, you can Google what the hex colors are if you want a different color than you're seeing on this color picker. Otherwise, you could just, maybe you'll just find it. And now what I did is I decided to make this all white. I think I want to make this white as well. I don't like the too many colors because I'm just sort of picky that way. So I'm going to go back and just customize only this block and make this external background white. So that's an example of that. The other thing, just to show you a little bit more example about the style, if I go to content here, notice there's these, the footer lets you put in these little social media icons, images. I'm going to go to content for that. And so if you notice, right now it's got Facebook, it's got Twitter, Google. You know, I don't want Google, right? I just want my Facebook, my Twitter, and my website. So then notice it changed the image, the icon image. So then you need to put in your links, right, to your Facebook or to whatever social media you're doing, what you're using, so that it goes to the proper place. So you just want to add, and notice my formatting here is using the full HTTPS twitter.com, and then you put your handle. Same thing with Facebook, it's the actual full URL, and then you put that in, right? Finish doing this. So then I have my link. So that takes care of that. And now, the other thing you want to think about with your footer is make sure, you do need, it's good to have your name of your organization and your address. The great thing here is that there's tokens for that, and we've set up, Powerbase should already have your tokens set up. And so if you go to tokens, and I'm going to display more, because these are your domain tokens that in Powerbase we set up for your organization. It should have your organization name and your organization address. So if I go to domain, because I know that's the grouping, I'm going to click on I want domain, and then I just want the address. Okay, and again, all the tokens work the same. Tokens are the same as before. They just are organized a little differently in this, right? I'm just going to leave the colors for now. And again, you can look at everything, just sort of get a sense of what you like. Again, you can move things around if you wanted to. I could just like maybe, I could move this up. I just flipped it around. And I was like, I don't really like it. I'll put this other one back up. All right. So you, again, can choose. You have a chance to move things around. If you don't like that block, you can always just delete it and start all over again. And to get back to the blocks, you just have to click on block. All right. So there's the blocks. You add. Again, you just drop and drag, or you could just highlight where you want, to add the block afterwards. Just go back and just add it, right? Maybe you want to add more text, right? And if you do, then you'd want to fix. You definitely want to fix what things are looking like in this. What your background. You want everything to match. All right. So I'm just putting stuff in there. All right, so that part is how you build templates. Now, you always want to test, so to be able to test, you have to be looking at your template or your palette to be able to do the test. This is the one way you access it. So you would click on test, and you can just start sending yourself a test email. You can select the groups that you want to send it to, which we always suggest sending it to a group of folks as well. You can view and get a sense of what it looks like as HTML. So right now I'm looking at the view, and you can see what it looks like. And there's the tokens. And so it's always good to view it in HTML, see what folks are seeing. And then when you're done with that test, you just hit the X. And if you like it and you're good to go, notice it's been saving periodically. Every time it will save periodically your email as you're moving along. I'm going to close to save it. And make sure you notice there's the save. So it's saving my template as I go. And then when you're ready, you can either save the draft or you can go to continue. And again, the last step. And for those of you that may do more with your mailing, you could click to the advanced mailing options. And this is exactly the other options. They're in the traditional City CRM email. Again, you can add your attachments, decide if you're tracking replies, what you're tracking. And again, all this stuff, is just going to be available publicly. So just, again, it's all the same. It just looks differently in how they do the steps. And then when you're ready, you can send it immediately, as usual, or schedule for the future. I'm going to save this draft. And then I'm going to show you one more thing. As I mentioned, again, coming back, if I want to see my draft unscheduled message mailings, it's the same place. There's my test email. The other thing to notice, again, is where the message templates live. And I created a message template. If I go to Mosaico, you can see that there's the new ones, and here's the ones I configured. Again, so you can use those templates when you create a new mailing. So you could just sort of say I created a general one, similar but different than the other one. This one has colors. I'm going to save that. And again, so if you wanted to if I wanted to go back, if I wanted to use that template, the same as before, except now, so if I'm just doing this, just a review, I'm going to just do another test email too. I'm not going to worry about the campaign for now. I'm just going to use something here, another test email. I just go and continue, and then I can just choose that template, and now it's already ready to go. And all you can do is enter that. Right? So now I'm going to close this, and I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to unmute folks, so it may get a little loud, but let me unmute folks, and then I'm going to see if there's any questions.
The conference has been unmuted.
And I'm also going to look at some of it. Great. So I want to see if anybody has any questions.
Yes, Alice?
Yes.
Hi, Alice. Thank you. That's pretty cool. I have a couple of questions. First one is,
Sure.
When you sent out the email for this conference, was that using this template or this?
Yes, it was using Mosaico. Yes, it was
Okay.
using Mosaico.
Can you talk? So the templates are great, and how is this? We just assume that they're going to be responsive, and when we type in our text and change font size, will that override anything that might make it responsive? I'm not sure.
Great question. If you stick with the template, right, if you're just editing the fonts from within and you stick with the template and you're not messing around with the code inside, it should be fine. It should remain mobile responsive, right? If you're just changing text and fixing fonts, you'll be fine. You just want to be mindful, right, that because you have access to still hit the source code, right? If I go back into this mailing, you have some access. If you start adding things like more tables or throwing more pictures in there inside the source code itself, that's when you could mess up. That's why you definitely want to go ahead and test, right? Always test. But if you just go in here and just start editing the text, you should be fine. It's when you start messing with the source code, that's when it could be, right? But if you notice the source code here,
So so in your templates, you have numbers like the size, the dimensions of the photos. Should we make the photos should we use that as a guide?
You could use that as it's great to use that as a guide, yes, for sure. And if not, it's going to try to resize your photo to make it fit, right? So you want to have at least enough of a quality there if it tries to make it bigger than it is. So that's why testing it, right? But it is a good guide, yes, because it's the block. And this is what, just so everybody, you notice this is 258 pixels by 150. Yeah, so it's giving you an idea of the size it's going to make that picture. So yeah, it'd be hard to put like a square photo in here in this link, right? It will make it huge is what it will do to make it fit the width. So again, you want to try and test or at least try to get your photos in this size. So it's good to look at this. Yes. Other questions, and I'm also going to go back and forth. I'm just looking. So Louisa asked a question about additional fees. No, there is no additional fees. You just let us know if you want us to enable it for you. It's actually just an extension, but there's a couple tweaks we want to do with it. And also, if you want us to enable it, if you want us to help at least set up a basic template for you, just let us know just by telling support. Questions?
This is Jaren. I had a question I put in the chat box. Thanks so much, by the way. It looks really great. Yeah, I was just wondering, because it says that unsubscribe right there, and I know sometimes, or view in browser, and I know we've been given advice that a lot of times people will look at their little preview text in their email browser.
Right.
And so if it says that word like unsubscribe, it's like we're constantly giving them that message instead of something like, hey, call on Tuesday, or
Gotcha.
Is there a way to move that to the bottom, or?
Yes, one way you could do it. So if you notice, let me just shut this a bit. If right now you can't move this block, but what you can do, and what I've done, is I've actually in the content. First of all, you just sort of don't show the pre-header and create a new header. Create a new one, right? You could base it off of a similar block like this one, and then add those links back in for unsubscribe and 3D text is what I would do. So then it's at the bottom and to the top. So you could just remove that, yes. You could just not show that and rebuild it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally understand that. Yes, it totally makes sense. All right, other questions?
Alice, this is Tanya.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi. Going back to the pictures thing, with the current system, you are able to upload the pictures as they are, but when you put them in the email, then you have the ability to resize them.
Yes.
Just to make sure, like on this one, you absolutely have to upload them already resized, correct?
Yeah, you should, again, you get it as close as possible. I mean, this picture that I sent up was not the same size as 534. It was smaller than that. It's a lot smaller than the 534 by 200, but it resized it. You just have to have a good enough quality, or at least make it know that if you want a banner, that you want it to be, it's rectangular, and then it will resize it for you. So you just have to sort of be mindful about the size of what, what the shape of your picture looks like so that it can resize it properly for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I just ask, this is Shaw. Thanks, Alice. I have a quick follow-up question on that.
Sure.
If we have a photo that's like 534 by 150, will it, shrink the box to fit the 150, or will it stretch the photo?
It may stretch the photo, but it sort of keeps its, its aspect ratio. Couldn't think of the word. So it'll fit, because again, mine here is not even 534 200. It's slimmer, my original file, and it seemed to do it right, and it didn't cut off anything. So I think you just want to get the shape right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something to play with, right? I've been playing with the different sizes of this. It's fairly new for us as well. And the pictures have been coming out pretty well. As it tries to resize and it makes it fit in a shape. Questions?
Alice, is there any suggestions you have for the group I'm working with? We do multilingual, so I think right now we're going to stick to doing one part English and then another part in Spanish.
Mhm.
Any suggestions?
Yeah, because are you doing, because one way is to build, and I think that's up to you, right? Because some folks like to have the Spanish, first, and then the English like right next to each other, rather than having the first part of the email be one way and the second part of the email. Because obviously you can duplicate the blocks, right? You can make a copy of this block and just make another one right next to it. So maybe the first part of your email is Spanish, or unless you can figure out who your Spanish speakers are, you make sure you target your email, right, your email list, and group your Spanish speakers so then they only get a Spanish-only email, which is obviously ideal, right, rather than have the mix, I think. That would be the idea, is try to separate the list. If you can possibly do that, that would be the best way, find out who wants, things in Spanish and wants things in English. But you can duplicate the blocks and move things around so you can have, Spanish first and English later.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Other questions? These are great questions. I know the images are always an issue. I think it's good. I hope people didn't lose the audio. It will be recorded. Any questions? Any other questions? Looking at Patrick's here about the footer info. Yes, you can say this is why creating the Mosaico template with the footer stuff is the way to go. Then you don't have to keep using it, but you're going to have to reuse your template and then recreate from there. Other questions? Sorry, I'm reading. I should start from the top. Christina had Parker. If you have ideal size, would be small enough. Again, not sure what would be too small. Again, you'd want to definitely test it, again, for clarity. It's more about the quality of the picture rather than size. Sometimes you can have really good quality, so it's always best to test it. And again, I would just take a look at the pictures here. Again, some of the pictures could be like, 35 kilobytes. It could be small, right? But it's just how, what the picture looks like, how grainy it is. You really just have to test it. Looking at other questions. Okay, so Jen. Okay, that we talked about that. Anybody else have questions? Enabling Mosaico, again, let us know. It is in the extensions. You can enable it if you know how to do that, but we do want to tweak a few things if you do enable it, so it's good to ask us just to make sure.
Okay, I have a question. This is Zach. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound a little tinny, but go ahead, Zach.
Once it's enabled, once Mosaico is enabled, and then you click to start a new mailing, it by default it takes it into the Mosaico editing system, right?
Correct.
But if I want to reuse an old mailing that was created in the old system, I can still do that too, and it still takes me to the traditional editor, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of interesting because it may. Yeah. You can use your new mailing traditional, right? And that's where, if you want your old template, it'll be in this message template right here in the old. So if I'm just clicking on mailing, notice it's the old template, right? The old stuff. Remember all this power-based, simple responsive stuff. That's the old ones. These are not Mosaico. So if you do want to reuse something, you just go to the existing ones you did, go to message templates. Otherwise, it's Mosaico templates. And then you can see your existing one, you do traditional. And again, that's if you decide to enable both. If you don't decide to enable Mosaico, you'll just have what you have now in your database. You won't have Mosaico at all. So that's a distinction. I know I'm getting a little feedback here. I'm trying to make sure folks are. I'm going to mute for a second.
The conference has been muted.
Just going to mute for a second so I can answer this one other question here from Ben. We have a template that says already sized to display well. Is there any benefit of using Mosaico rather than the traditional method? And no. So Ben, if you're happy with your templates the traditional way, there's no real benefit of using Mosaico, especially if nobody else is going to use it. If you're not going to use it, it's best not to have things sort of junk up your database, right? Have the extra things in there that are not necessary. So there's really no benefit if you feel like how your email is working now without Mosaico. If you're all happy with it, staff, then I suggest don't bother. It's not necessary. Some folks are just happy with the way things are, and that's totally cool. Yes, if you want to have this extension activated, just email support@progressivetech.org. That would probably be the best way. Again, there's a couple things, there's a couple of tweaks that we're still doing just to make sure things are working right. But that would be the best. I'm going to unmute
The conference
again.
has been unmuted.
All right. Any other questions? I've been muted again. Any other questions from folks?
Alex, this is Tanya.
Hi, Tanya.
On that question about the devices, I know that in the current system, when we will do test emails to various servers, like iCloud, some of the emails will look different because some of them, the email itself will look bigger, especially if you were looking at them on mobile devices. So will this system make that easier, or do we have to, I know for websites we have to adjust the display. Does it have that option, or is it automatically adjusted for the various mobile devices?
Okay, so that's a great question. So, with Mosaico, they do build things to really try to look best on as many different devices as possible. And yet it still depends on people's email browsers and email services and what they're using, right? So I think Mosaico tries to do the best, does it really well. I can just say that much. I'm not saying that it maybe 100% it works. I mean, there's always something to look at, but I think Mosaico does it pretty well, being able to handle, being able to render the email on various different platforms, devices, browsers, and service providers. So I think in that sense it works really well.
So there's no extra step.
Excuse me, what was that, Tanya?
No extra step to adjust.
There's no extra step, but, again, nothing's ever 100% foolproof. only because we're not sure what everybody's using, right? Not sure what kinds of phones they're using, browsers they're using, things like that. So nothing's foolproof, but I think it does pretty well. It's always still good to just take a look anyway. Mm-hmm. It's always a good idea, a good practice. But again, I think it does fairly well in covering that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And Rose, if there's a time you can walk through another tester demo, welcome to do it. Again, just so you know, you get the webinar, and I also have the documentation. So you will get this webinar so you can walk through it again. I know I went quickly, but you can at least do that. Okay, great. Other questions? Get a few more minutes.
Brandon with Silicon Appleseed.
Hi, Brandon.
You had mentioned the possibility, for example, of moving the unsubscribe link and things like that down somewhere else in the email to copy those tokens into a different block or something. Mm-hmm. Is it possible for us as users to then save a block or, save the changes to the default block?
You would just want to save it as a
that we've got to the left side.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is to be able to use that same block again in future emails without having to recreate that every single time.
No, so that's why there really isn't a way to resave the block. You just have to resave the template. I would create a message template just with the block and don't add anything else in it is what I would do. And then reuse that block, use that template which only has your block. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. That's how I would do it because there really isn't a way to resave that block that I've found. It's because it's just pre-configured blocks. It's just giving you a template. So it's not to override the block. So you would have to create your own block and then save it as a template. You know what I mean? Create the block you want, way you want it, then save it as a template, and then you start from there.
Okay.
Yep. But that's a great question, and maybe somebody will come up with that sometime. Other questions? All right.
Reporting,
yes.
Reporting and everything's the same, remains the same, right?
Yes,
Everything
exactly.
Okay.
It's still the same. So, when you go to your scheduled and sent emails, and I don't have anything because this is a demo, it's the same place. You go to your scheduled and sent emails, and you just click on the report next to the email. So, and that's going to show all of your stuff, right? It's going to show your Mosaico and this show. So it'll just go to the email, and then it will do the same thing, yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Well, I think I hit everybody in here. All right. Well, then, thank you, everybody. Feel free to send email about any more questions or to support@progressivetech.org. Again, I will send out a follow-up email to everybody with the webinar recording and also the documentation which is available. And feel free to share the information with folks on staff. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining today, and look forward to talking to you all soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you, Alice.